What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
And I am Tom, the OG Fig Kid, the staple of the Turnbuckle Debate.
All right, man. Go ahead and get your stuff in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Get
it
it
just
in,
flows
Tom.
off the tongue now. It just starts flowing.
Just rolls. That's just who he is, man. He's
That's
the
it.
Staple.
We're excited too. We have a guest on today. We have Kenny from the Call Up Podcast. Kenny, how's it going, man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're happy
to
to
the
have
show.
you here.
Yeah, man. We're excited to have you on. We love having guests. It's a lot of fun to have another person bring a topic to the table. Tell everybody a little bit about your podcast and where they can find you.
So the Call Up Podcast is a conversational based podcast where I sit down with different talent, from around the world, just to get to know them outside of the ring. We spend so much time finding out what the character is, but we never get to know who the person behind the character is. So that's where my show comes from. I like to find out about family life, what hobbies they're into. And then I also have a segment called The Fig Life, where I talk to other hobby collectors about what they love, and what we love, and why they got into collecting in the first place.
That's awesome.
Awesome,
Yeah.
man. Sounds like
I love conversations like that too,
Mhm.
man, because you do get you know about the character of these people, but I
Yeah.
like to know behind the character, like what they do and how they live life, man. That's a lot of fun. What's one of the most your favorite conversations you've had?
I will have to say Heath Slater was one of my favorites, because he was just off of Slammiversary. He just got injured over the last pay-per-view he had over in Impact, and I think he was just more ready to answer WWE questions.
Yeah,
and then I hit him with family stuff. So if you go back and if you look at the interview, I think half the interview we talked about our kids, and we shared stories, and that's stuff that you don't necessarily see all the time. So
Right.
yeah,
his story character had him that he had all these kids, but now you kind of digged in a little bit more. So what is he into with his kids? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
yeah, and you earn a new respect for these guys when you start hearing them talk about their families or
Yeah.
other interests and stuff.
Yeah.
I love that type of stuff too. So.
Heath is he's a local guy for us. He grew up probably about an hour and a half from where we grew up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So, well, the way we'll do it, we have 3 topics. I know you brought a topic to the table, and we'll debate it for around 10 to 12 minutes, get everybody's take on it, and see what we can figure out about these topics. You guys ready to get into the first
let's
one?
do it, man.
Yeah,
Let's
Let's
go.
do it.
All right. So our first topic of the evening is, does AEW have too many factions?
I'm going to go with a no on that one because they're all working. If they had too many factions and they weren't working, okay, you'd say, okay, maybe they have too many. But everything's clicking with the factions right now. It's a fun thing they got going on over there. And we haven't seen factions used properly in a long time in other promotions. So in a certain American promotion, not AEW. So I've been enjoying it because I've been so into the WWE thing for so long. I missed factions. So I don't think so. I think it's working.
I agree. I don't think there's too many factions. As a matter of fact, I think I know I've said it to Chad before, and I may have said it on another show, but give me all the factions, man. I think they're fun. I think they're so entertaining, especially when they're clicking like they are right now, like what you said, Tom. I think an argument is, why would you not want to have factions? What's the argument for not having a faction?
Well,
It makes-
I think it's like, what is too many factions? Like it's only too many factions if it's not working. You know, when
Yeah.
late WCW, you know, even WWE in the at the height of the Attitude Era, when we had like uh the biker group, Disciples of, what was it, DOA, Disciples of
Mhm.
Apocalypse, maybe.
Yeah,
The
DOA, Right to
Ministry,
Censor.
Corporation, Oddities, DX. You had a, but at the same time, like a lot of that, I think it's a brilliant move by AEW, because when you have a roster as big as they have, and you only have 2 hours on national TV to get these guys screen time, it's a great way to book the, especially younger guys who are kind of getting their feet wet, because you set them in these factions, and then storyline can branch them off. You're building stars underneath bigger stars. You're giving guys things to do. You're having
Yeah.
faction warfare, which is always fun if done properly, and I think so far they have done it properly.
Yeah, and you get guys like in the Dark Order, they're playing off of each other, and then you're
Mhm.
seeing what they excel at. You know, it's been a lot of fun. Dark Order and being the Elite, like, you know, I went back and watched a lot of those, and it's just fun. You're seeing these guys shining new ways, and you hear Tony Khan after he started watching that, and what he saw in them, and he's like, "You guys got to bring this to TV." You know, this
Yeah.
isn't just for that. So
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, AEW right now, like they have that blueprint of, you know, putting these guys together, and then they have like that, you know, they a good chemistry. You know,
Exactly.
like everybody's playing a part, you know, in there, and no one's just like playing like the background. You know, even though if you hate one person from like the inner circle, you know, you guarantee that they're gonna win you over somehow. You know,
Right.
like down the line, because like for a good while, like when MGF got into the inner circle, I was like, why? You know, and then he just brung
Yeah.
in, like, then he brung in other guys that, you know, once he left the inner circle, he came and brung in other guys and gave them more TV time, because like, you know, FTR, they really, once they lost the titles, like you really didn't see them as much.
Right, Sean Spears.
Yeah, Sean Spears is another one. He came in and he was red hot in the beginning, and then I think he got hurt, and then he came back, and now he's with, you know, the Pinnacle now, and it's just like, you know, yeah, they make fun of his haircut, but I mean, he's been you know, getting, you know, picked on since WWE days, so it's all right.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a really good job of like they're not booking every faction with the same archetype of a faction. You know, you've got like, say, Dark Order when Brody was around, RIP.
Mhm.
You know, they put this big star in there, and then they're building guys like Preston Vance, 10, 5,
Mhm.
Alex Reynolds and John Silver, unknown guys under a big star, building them up. But now we have the factory with QT. QT's not a big star, but he has that storyline with Cody that, and now they're elevating him in this faction, and at the same time they're elevating a relative unknown in QT Marshall.
Right.
They're also putting 3 even lesser known guys underneath him: Nick Camarado, Aaron Solo, and Agogo. And these guys no one knows, but now they're kind of thrust in this storyline with the Rhodes family, and you've made 3 or 4 guys you're making, which I think is brilliant booking.
And the way
Yeah.
I knew, I'm sorry, the way I knew that they like they were booking this correctly is like I sat last week with like a casual fan who never watched AEW a day in their life because they only watched WWE, and they got hooked to it. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
minute they started seeing the teams, and it was like, oh, who's this? And it was just like, well, I've never heard of this person before, and then they just stood glued to the TV with me, like, you know, watching it.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm really hoping that we get to see a first woman faction and Chelsea Green comes aboard and joins Dr. Britt Baker, because I think
They're
they could do
friends.
some good stuff
Oh, yeah.
together. I could see a nice woman faction just taking off there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and I go ahead, Sneed.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, you hear it all the time on internet, you know, in the internet wrestling community, that you always hear people complaining that there's too many factions. I don't understand why. I'll never understand why. And it even, like, today it was announced that there's a ringside exclusive Jurassic Express.
Mhm.
And And the amount of people that were upset that Marco Stunt's not involved in that lets me know that factions work, because if it wasn't for Jurassic Express, where would Marco Stunt be?
Yeah,
Right.
he'd still be in the
That's
Indies.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right.
And just that small, simple, one that, because there's not a figure of him in there, there were a few
Mhm.
people that weren't getting it because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
one of those people that were upset when I saw it. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we knew it was Jurassic Express was going to get some type of exclusive with Ringside, and like the first thing that came to mind when I saw the box, I was just like, where's Marco? Like he's
Right.
not on here.
Yep.
Like he is a part of the crew, whether or not he hardly wrestles, but he's there.
Yep.
Even if you could have made a Build-A-Figure of him, you didn't want to.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And he, in that box that they released, the packaging is so sweet. But they could have easily put him under the legs of Luchasaurus. You know
Yep.
how he
Yeah.
slides under? It could have easily fit in there. But like one thing about factions, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. I know people say there's a lot of factions, and I know we talked to Tom about this, how we think anyone, if you have 3 or more people, that's a faction. Okay. But with like groups like Best Friends, now this kind of group with Best Friends, Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy, to me, that's not a true faction. It's almost like it's not the same as like the Pinnacle, the Factory, Inner Circle, because it's like you've got a tag team Best Friends, their buddy Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander. Do you think I'm splitting hairs here and they are a faction, or do you see what I'm saying? How there's people who have kind of partnerships or unions, but they're not necessarily under the same flag or under the same banner.
I'm going to say you're splitting hairs there. I think they're a faction.
Yeah,
I think
so too.
Just because of the simple fact that when Chris Statlander came into it, they said Chris Statlander's joined Best Friends.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm nitpicking here.
Because when they said that, I was like, the tag team is Best Friends, but they are a unit.
Right, right.
But you know what? I kind of gotta agree with Chad. I don't feel like they're a full-on faction. Like they're there, but it's not as strong as like the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle.
So
Like, I
what
don't know,
defines a faction then?
I never really considered the Shield a faction. They were more a team to me.
To me,
A faction is like when wrestlers just come together and form a group, where the Shield was just the Shield. They were the team. It's like the Four Horsemen.
When they refer to the name or the banner they are under themselves, that to me is a true faction. Like when you have the NWO members, NWO for life, they were always saying the moniker. They were wearing the T-shirt with the name. They were branded under that
unit.
name.
Right.
They were
and
unit. And when
members,
Best Friends, they don't
they
come
would have
out.
members come and go.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have like
they had
Chris
members
Statlander saying that.
Yeah. I don't know, I kind of, like I said, the Shield was a team. They didn't have members come and go, and it was just the 3 of them the whole time.
Right.
But remember when they formed the Shield, they were all doing separate things on over at NXT and was FCW, and then they brung them together because they didn't even have like full gear. They just came with that little riot stuff and the mask, and then that was it. And then Seth Rollins was still a champion over at NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think when your entrance music is like saying the name and you're coming out together, that's a pretty
that's a pretty solid faction thing.
Yeah, like Four Horsemen. When you're throwing up the 4,
everybody
you're a
knows.
faction.
Yeah.
You're Best Friends. You don't hear Orange Cassidy being like, the Best Friends are coming out here tonight, or Trent, like we're the best. They never refer to themselves. That's something that almost the fans put on them as far as the group of 4.
Yeah, but as a unit though, they do the hug and the camera. You get the camera thing.
That's true too.
That's true. That's a solid point. I mean,
they might not say it, but they do.
They play to it a little bit.
They come together as a unit.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I was just going to say my closing statement is then you have WWE who they don't even keep their factions together. They had the Hurt Business,
Oh,
which was
man.
4 guys that were better than they've been in years, and they just tear it apart for no reason.
It's
Yep.
sad to me that they pulled to keep the Hurt Business together and they still disbanded it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's the
agree.
problem. Factions, I think the thing that makes factions meaningful and powerful is longevity. You know, like
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
and WWE in recent, in the last, I would say, couple decades, maybe even they are so quick to break not only factions up but tag teams up, and
Mhm.
Yep.
you got to let those guys. Like, that's what I love about the way AEW books factions is look at Inner Circle. They've been together since episode
Yes.
1 of Dynamite.
Yeah.
And we've already seen them transition from heels into baby faces. So it's great long-term booking.
Yeah, and I just think even with the factory, the Nightmare Family was such a strong faction that breaking off a piece of that and forming another faction
It was
instantly
completely
makes them
fine. Yeah.
makes them a strong faction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the general consensus is bring all the factions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll move on to the next topic of the evening. This is the topic that you've brought to the table, and it is John Cena the greatest of all time?
Kick it off, Kenny.
I'm gonna say yes. Okay. Let's look at John Cena's career in a whole. Okay. Has Vince McMahon ever had an issue with John Cena? No. John Cena is like the corporate guy that you want that's gonna take your company to like new heights. The man literally like retired from the ring. I mean, he hasn't really said it, but we haven't seen him since like the last WrestleMania. But when it came time for Vince to have like a face in the company, he was there. The man learned Japanese. The man put people over when people said that he would bury people. He had great matches with AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, Roman Reigns,
Edge.
Edge, Batista. Like the list goes on of the people that he had. Like he bigged them up. Even the Miz even said it in the documentary that he thanked John Cena for carrying him and giving him the advice that he gave him in order to stay in the company. Like what guy is really gonna do that besides Taker? You had so many people in WWE/WWF that came and went that we all love. Austin, Brett, Shawn, Hogan. They were top guys that Vince saw highly of them, and the only person that really stood there was the longest was a Taker and John Cena.
I don't
Tom?
think longevity necessarily makes you the best of all time now. I mean, maybe the most loyal, and I often, we just did a debate a couple months back how I'm realizing now how much WWE misses Cena,
Mm-hmm.
but I certainly wouldn't even probably put him on my Mount Rushmore of wrestlers at this point.
But you got to think about it like this, right? So when we look at somebody who's the greatest of all time, right? In your mind, you're thinking in-ring, mic skills, gimmick, right? Now, that's great. I mean, we can have a whole nother debate of who is the greatest of all time, and everybody's gonna have a different opinion. But for the industry wise, John Cena has helped so many people elevate their game and grow. And that's what I mean about the greatest of all time, because you think about it like this, even in other sports, that one person is going to help another person, grow, and they're going to continue on. So imagine if John Cena didn't help Roman Reigns or AJ Styles move up to another level.
I mean, did you watch the Jericho interview on a Broken Skull Sessions?
Yeah.
I mean, you learned about how much he helped people while he was there for the 20 years. And I've heard other wrestlers come out and say what he did for them. Even, Zack Ryder came out and Jericho told him, what are you doing with the one-legged tights, man? That's going to ruin you. Stop it. He's gone. And you hear how he helps the people in AEW. I mean, I think Jericho might be the GOAT. Like he was super loyal to the WWE
case.
for 20 years. For 20 years Jericho was there. You know, that's longer than Cena's run.
My thing, if we're debating greatest company man of all time, I'm with you. It is probably John Cena. If we're talking just purely greatest of all time, I got to go Ric Flair, Stone Cold. You want to talk about people getting made? I mean, who's made more people than Ric Flair? I mean, the Stings of the world. And the title reigns, which Cena is tied with him
Yes,
at.
he
But
is.
if you really break down Cena's reigns, almost over half of his reigns are less than a month.
And they also came during brand splits, which is like a watered down version of the world title.
John Cena, when it comes to just titles, to me, he is the king of the transitional champion. He had so many like 2-week reigns, 3-week reigns, a month or two. He had, I think, 2 or 3 really long reigns at the beginning of his career that went like hundreds of days. But my thing with what Kenny's saying about Cena kind of carrying the company and bringing, learning Japanese and being that company guy, I do think that, he carried that company on his back during a pretty down time and brought a lot of money to the company.
Mm-hmm.
But my counter to that is, I think even though that is the most financially successful time, like right now for WWE, and it was kind of built in the wake of John Cena, I think that era, that PG era that Cena really thrived in, and it was kind of that publicly traded corporate era of WWE. I think that's why it's doing bad right now. That's why the booking, he kind of ushered in this corporate era of WWE. I'm not saying he was responsible for it, but he was the PG guy. He brought that in. Vince got obsessed with him. And I think out of any big Mount Rushmore type of wrestler, the one flaw I think Cena has more than anything is he never evolved his character. Now you can say he went from Doctor of Thugonomics to PG John Cena, but that's what else? He never. Every other guy evolved. I mean, even you can't really say Stone Cold evolved, but his run was like this short as Stone Cold. He got hurt before he even had a chance to evolve, and even he turned heel. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of a bad heel turn, but even Stone Cold was heel for a moment.
I mean that's the one thing that they want is for Cena to turn heel, and and you said he went from like Dr. Thugonomics to what we see now, but then you remember, before he made it to Thugonomics, he played the bodybuilder character.
Prototype.
So it went through the prototype. So it went 3, but I do agree with you with the whole title run thing, but at the same time, you have to realize too is like that company at that time was trying to build so many stars that Vince, like, he's like one of those kids that you just you can tell them like, hey, we're gonna go into Target and you can buy whatever you want, and they'll go inside the toy aisle and they're like, I want this one, and then no, I want this one, and I want this one, I want this one. It's not like back in the day where like Vince only had these certain guys. He had Hogan, he had Brett, he had Stone Cold, he had The Rock, where he's just like, okay, I'm going to keep it on these guys for this certain period of time until we could build, another top guy to like take that spot for a while.
I don't think no one has been as big as Cena since him though. No one came out of that as big as him.
They're still searching for their John Cena right now because they clearly don't have one.
I mean, Roman's kind of knocking on the door.
Yeah, no, Roman's getting there. Like him partnering with, Paul Heyman and having this new gimmick and him working on himself. I think the time off that he had, for like, health reasons and joining the Rock's like media team and them getting him like the acting lessons and stuff like that, it's paying off. Can he be top? Can he be a John Cena of the company? We still have to wait and see.
Yeah, I have one point about people being made, and then I'll pass off to Tom and Sneed. You talked about Cena making guys. Yeah, he put over a lot of guys, but to me, when you talk about putting over guys, Stone Cold, he didn't have to put over a lot of guys because he put over one guy, and that's The Rock. Like when
Yeah.
when you have a mega star put over a guy, and then that guy. Now we all know Rock was on his way, but he needed Stone Cold to put him over to really send him to the stratosphere. And I don't know if we've ever seen a baton pass like that from one megastar to the next. Hogan didn't do it. Hogan could have put over Brett. He didn't do it.
Nope.
So that's a big feather in Stone Cold's cap, is that he put over The Rock.
I feel like they tried with the whole Cena and Reigns angle with the match. They
tried.
I felt like that was their attempt at it, but it still didn't work. It fell short.
I think that like that feud was good, but the thing about it is like Roman, his mic skills wasn't what it is now. Like I think if you would have had Roman now versus John Cena back then, like that promo would have been so much better.
Yeah, he was dropping lines like "suffering succotash" back then.
Yeah, there was actually Roman Reigns did an Instagram live last year while he was out during COVID. I don't know if you guys saw it. He was just walking in the street and he was just answering the critics, which I feel like the character he is now stemmed from that. And because he was saying, like, you guys don't know me. You don't know why I had to step down and I can't be there. You don't know what I have going on at home. And I don't know if somebody from WWE saw that, because it was the most, like, it just I can't think of the word, but it sparked what he became.
Yeah.
Like you could see, like it was Roman actually just being Roman. We talk about not letting people be organic. That was organic Roman, and I think they actually grabbed that and went with that from that little Instagram video.
What do you think, Sneed? I haven't.
Well, here's like for me, I see both, or I see your argument, Chad, Kenny. I see your argument. They both hold a lot of weight. For me, the reason I don't think he's the greatest of all time is because he didn't or doesn't have entertaining matches. He doesn't entertain me in the ring. Now he does have good matches, but he has to have somebody in there
with him
to make it a good match. Now people like Ric Flair, The Rock, they can go in and they can have a match with Abe Knuckleball Schwartz and make it look just amazing. And with Cena, if he gets in there, I mean, he's got a few moves and it's done.
Five moves of doom.
Yeah,
it's to me, right. he just doesn't have those entertaining matches.
No, it's true. He always would, if he was fighting AJ Styles or Kevin Owens, his matches with Owens were great. He would fight up with them, but if he fought a lesser opponent, he would be lesser.
He would fight down.
It's like he could never raise anybody up. Like Shawn Michaels, made Hogan look good in that match at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
and that was pretty amazing at that age because Hogan could barely move.
The Rock with Hogan at Mania, that was a great match, and Hogan
that was a great match.
Not have put on a match that good.
Nope.
Yeah.
So,
what was that, 17, 18?
19, I think.
19?
Or no, 18. Maybe 18? I can't remember.
No, it must have been 18 because 19 was Stone Cold and the last Stone Cold.
Yeah, it was 18. It was 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why to me, like I said, I see both arguments. Not saying he's terrible. To me, he's not my greatest, just because I was never entertained by him.
In the ring.
Yeah.
He's got great mic skills. He's one of the best mic guys in the business.
Yeah, because Kenny, I think it was your point that you had said there was three things. It was mic skills, and then there were two other things.
In-ring
and gimmick.
To me, I would rank those mic skills, gimmick, and then in-ring. Like if I had to rank him 1 to 3.
I would put his gimmick at the bottom for me. I think he put on really great matches, but I see your point, Sneed, about every time he had a great match, it was just as much because of his opponent. Yeah, I don't feel like he carried. I like what Tom said. Sometimes if he would wrestle down, he would almost match the level of his opponent. Like if the opponent elevated him, he would put on like those CM Punk matches, Edge matches, even the JBL matches. Like he's had great matches, but I would put Mike Skills gimmick or Mike Skills matches, then gimmick. I never liked his gimmick. I thought it was wore out to me at one point.
I also felt though, like in his last year or two was some of his best in-ring work, and then he walked away. Like then he was done, so we didn't get to see him continue that. He started adding a couple new moves, and it's like, wow, okay, this guy is like really hustling his ass now. Like this is, I felt like he was trying harder. So
I think because that's when he knew that it was time for him to step off.
Yeah.
Because he's been doing so much now, in Hollywood, that it's just like, you know what? Do I really? Yeah, yes, I love the business, but do I really need to still be here?
Right.
yeah, but you know
right.
what?
Yeah.
He could come back next week and be the biggest thing in WWE today
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
they're hungry for it. They
They
need
were
it.
they were waiting for him for WrestleMania, and he missed
Yeah.
it. And he told him, he's like, I'm not WrestleMania. WrestleMania will still go on without me.
Yep. Yep.
And honestly, like Tom, you brought up the debate we had months ago about does WWE miss, did fans take Cena for granted? I think was the
Yes.
debate.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was never a big Cena fan when he was in his run, but I took him for granted. I was one
Yeah.
of those fans
Yeah.
because I do miss Cena now. Like I feel like WWE misses Cena.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I think he's one of the greats. He's definitely in that line of Hogan, Stone Cold, Rock, Cena, and we have yet to replace Cena. So until
Yeah.
someone
Right. I
steps
agree.
up and takes that throne, he was the last great guy.
Yeah.
I
I'll
agree.
I'll tell the story every time, man. When one of the best things I ever saw live was one night stand when we went in 2006,
So
and him
good.
and RVD, and him coming out and throwing the shirt and people throwing the shirt back, and he
Oh,
just
yeah.
was not used to that.
That crowd was losing their mind
Oh,
that
dude,
night.
that was the hottest crowd I've ever been a part of,
Yeah.
Oh wow.
easily.
That
Yeah.
sounds-
All right, so we are going to move into our final topic of the evening. So our final topic of the evening is: should Rich Swann have gone over on Kenny Omega at Rebellion?
Hell no. We're
No.
building this thing with Omega right now. It's on a roll. Why would you stop it right now? It's only going to bring more eyes to Impact to have Omega on this roll showing up on their show. More AEW fans are going to turn into Impact now just to see that. Like, no, they did the absolute right thing in letting him win, and I hope he holds both titles for a while. Let him plug both shows. Let him carry both shows. What's wrong with that? If it's going to help your show, you go with it. Rich Swann isn't going to bring the eyes Kenny Omega is. Let's be honest.
The Staples caught some passion on this one.
What do you think, Kenny?
I think when AEW said that they were partnering up with, Impact, the first thing that a lot of people said, especially like diehard fans, was like, this is gonna benefit AEW more than it does Impact, and it shows. You don't see Impact have commercials on AEW. AEW did not promote Rich Swann and Kenny Omega match at all. Okay, anytime you watch Impact, there's like 3 commercials for AEW, and they're all featuring Kenny Omega. This whole thing only benefited Kenny Omega to make him the star that he wants to be. Because the same way like Jericho said he came into AEW to help them, grow. He's helping Kenny Omega grow. He had that match with Kenny Omega. Now Kenny Omega is doing stuff with Impact, so he can get those Impact fans that really doesn't know who he is and what other titles he's holding, to like get to know him more, because he's not there mainstream wise. He's diehard wrestling fans. We all know who Kenny Omega is.
Yep.
The average fan, like the casual fan, does not know who Kenny Omega is at all. And that proved last week when I had somebody sit down and watch, and I was like, who is that? And I was like, oh, that's their world champion. I was like, I've never heard of him.
Let's just look at it this way. Is Rich Swann winning the AEW title going to bring more eyes to AEW, or is Omega winning a title going to Impact going to bring more eyes to Impact?
But see,
that's helping Impact, in my opinion.
But here's the thing, though. So if you look at the numbers, like the rating wise, when Kenny Omega came to Impact, it only elevated them maybe like a bump. It wasn't like a huge margin of like their normal viewership. It was maybe like a couple of thousand extra people, and that was like at the end part of when they knew Kenny Omega was going to be there. And I think that's why leading up to Rebellion, they started like piecing him in to different quarters of the show, because they knew like, okay, if we put him at the end, they're not going to watch until the end. But if we put them in the middle and put them in the beginning, middle, and end, you're going to stick around because you never know what's going to happen next.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we were talking before the show started about Impact and their advertising, and I think the reason you didn't see Tony Khan has spoke to this, how the reason you didn't see ads, he's like, I had to buy my ad space on Impact. He's like, they need to do the same. I do agree that I thought they would bring Rich Swann in and a couple dynamites to build this feud. But the thing I heard a lot of people saying about this, and one, I think Kenny Omega should have won. I think it's the best thing for both companies, and I'll explain why. But Bully Ray, a lot of people were saying everyone expected Omega to win. It was what do you call it? I'm losing my train of thought. It was like expected. But to me, sometimes what's expected is what needs to happen. And Bully Ray had said that they should have done the surprise and had Rich Swann win and then dropped the title on Dynamite. And to me, I'm like, I don't like booking a surprise just because everyone's expecting this. It's got to be storyline based. To me, if you have Rich Swann come in and he's a 1 week champion and then he drops it to Kenny Omega a week later, it's sullying the title. Right now, the AEW title has 3 champs in it, and each champ has had long reigns. You had Jericho, Mox, now Omega. And the thing that I think people are forgetting about, or maybe not thinking about, that to me gets me very excited for Impact Television, and this is the story I hope they build around. Okay, the story of Omega being the belt collector, that's a great storyline, especially if this continues and he goes into other companies like New Japan or possibly NWA. But the most intriguing storyline of this to me is who is going to be the hero to step up in Impact and bring that belt home. That is the story. Like, who is going to be, you've got this belt collector, this dominant guy who's ruling over the wrestling industry. Who is going to be that star from Impact to come in and beat this unstoppable Kenny Omega? And when you have that person come in and beat Omega and bring the Impact Gold back home to Impact, you have made a superstar to me. Like, because fans, I get it. The WWE, the larger like masses may not know Kenny Omega as well, but the hardcores, I mean, there's a reason he's known as the best bout machine. The New Japan, the DDT era of him, people love that guy. And I think he is one of the best in the business right now. And I'm loving following that story, but I'm going to love even more to see who takes that belt and brings it back to Impact. I think that's a very fun storyline.
Now there was one thing that Impact did that I went going into Rebellion that I thought that I said, you know what? I don't think we're not going to have a definitive winner, and that was when Moose came back, because we didn't see Moose for like since the last pay-per-view when he lost to Rich Swann. And he gave that message to Rich Swann, like, don't lose a title, because if you lose a title, I'm going to come for you. And he warned Rich Swann. He told him, he said, remember, he has his cronies with him. So when he came out with Eddie Edwards and Willie Mack, I was just like, okay, like, this is going to be interesting because now they're there to back him up, and I literally thought that Moose was going to come out and like hit someone and that title was still going to stay at Impact because he loves that TNA title so much.
And they kind of teased it when they brought Aubrey in and had the 2 refs, and Brian Hebner kind of took the bump and Aubrey came in. They teased that they were going to do a schmoz finish, but I loved that they didn't end it like that. Fans would have revolted. You think fans are mad that Omega won, or if Rich Swann would have won? People would have lost their shit if that would have ended in like a count out or a DQ. Like, nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, it would have been Rollins and Fiend all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Sneed?
Well, I mean, I think the right thing to do is obviously to have Kenny Omega go over and win. I think what they need to do now, I think what would be good is if somebody from Impact came in and challenged Darby for the TNT title.
Yeah, spread the love around.
Idea. That's a great idea.
Spread that around, because I think everybody, just because, like you were talking, Bully had said something about having Rich Swann come in, win or whatever. No, the obvious thing was to have Kenny Omega win. The obvious thing is what should have happened. That's what did happen. Now, I think it would be fun or very interesting to have somebody from Impact come in and start messing with Darby, because I don't know who's going to take that off of Darby, and I don't know who's going to make that an interesting storyline with the TNT title. So why not bring somebody from Impact in to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So-
different. And I want to talk about Impact's ratings for a minute, because, they're also on Twitch and on their own app.
Mhm.
So we really don't know how many people watch that show each week. We're just going by the Nielsen ratings,
And
which is
access
a very outdated system. And then again, they're on Access, which is a lot of
Right.
people don't even have access to
No.
it. So they're kind of at a disadvantage there. Like, a lot of younger people, a lot of people just streaming things. I wonder if their Twitch numbers, how much they jumped for Impact that week. I mean, I'll watch Impact on Twitch before I watch it on TV. I'll just throw it on my iPad when I'm doing something now,
Yeah.
because it's easier for me to watch it that way. So
who is going to come in and bring the title
That's
back
what
to-
I was going to ask.
I
Who
think
brings the belt home?
I say Moose.
Okay.
Because
Like
how about this? How about Samoa Joe?
That's who I was going to say.
But is he medically cleared to do so?
See,
I
I've
think so.
heard on Busted Open Radio, Tommy and Bully were talking about it one day, and they were saying that people they know in the business said that the reason he was upset is he wanted to wrestle and he was cleared and they weren't using him because of
Okay.
the concussion. So if that is the case, that he's cleared, I think Impact's going to have a hard time signing him. I'll be honest. I don't know if they,
Yeah.
because I think AEW is going to go after him hard. That
Oh, yeah.
that is an instant main eventer.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's a joint thing where AEW signs him, but kind of lets Impact start with him, and then he jumps over.
Yeah.
Benefit.
He could
it'll
float.
benefit everybody if they do
Yeah.
that.
Right. But then you got to play it smart too, because like one thing that I really don't like about AEW is that they let their stars do too much outside work. And that can hurt you in the long run. You can burn out, you can get hurt, and then if you're a part of a storyline, then what?
That's true. The one thing I'll say about bringing in Samoa Joe too that I don't like, yeah, he has the name power, the big power, name power to do it, but at the same time, you're putting a guy over that's already made.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, on the back end of his career. To me, this is a golden opportunity to create a new star. They need to properly build someone on their TV, and I don't know if they have that person yet.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know who they have.
who they would build to that, but if you had a young guy and build them up right over the next 5 or 6 months, and then it capped the year off with someone taking out Kenny Omega, that guy's over. And Samoa Joe doesn't need that. He doesn't need
the title at all.
No.
Yeah.
No, he definitely doesn't need it. It's just thinking of who can do it.
I mean, yeah, because he had such a
As of
long
right
run
now,
in
I don't think
TNA.
I can't think of anybody I can't think of anybody right now that they could build to do it. But
Right.
Yeah.
but it would be nice to have somebody.
Moose
is the only person that I feel that could step up and have a really good match with Kenny Omega. Because you look at his moveset, like he for a guy his size and built, he can move in that ring. And we've seen it countless times. And he's changed his in-ring work throughout this whole pandemic.
Oh, he's grown so much, man. You can tell that he's kind of locking into a groove, and he's doing the best work of his career right now.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap up the show?
No.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up, man. Kenny, we appreciate you coming on. You always have a seat here. You can come on and debate with us anytime you want to.
Oh man, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I really
I had a
enjoyed this.
blast.
That was fun
man.
having you, man. Definitely
Anytime
come
you
back.
want to bring a topic on, I mean, we're here every Monday. So
And
Nice.
again, plug your Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah, so you guys can find me over on Instagram. That's mostly where I'm I'm at, as at the call up is DACALLUP. You can catch my show every Monday on YouTube and all major like podcast platforms. I normally drop it like midnight or like 8 a.m, but it's normally there when you get up Monday morning. It's right there, ready to go.
Awesome.
awesome. Tom, you got anything you want to say before I play us out?
Just the OG Fit Kid on Twitter and Instagram. Staple out.
Staple out. All right, guys, make sure you are following us on Instagram and Twitter, and then tune in on Thursdays for our flagship show. And again, Kenny, it's been great. We'll see you guys next week. Court is dismissed.